Hello, hello. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time of day it is in whatever part of the world you are. It's your girl Camille, keeping it real, and you are watching The Real Camille. Cool, sweet and dripping juicy. I die what I like, die natural is too. Fresh when I taste it, so I want a mango for Samantha, that mango for Vanessa, that mango for Missy, Chrissy, Britney, Crystal, and Kizzy. So picking up where we left off, I promised that I was going to share with you guys reasons why I had a desire to leave America on many occasions, why I left America. Okay, I am from New York. I am not familiar with life in any other state. The only state that I am accustomed to is New York. New York is the home to many, many immigrants from many countries around the world. But specifically speaking for Caribbean people, New York is the number one state in America where it has the largest population of Caribbean immigrants. Oftentimes, Caribbean people settle in New York and they don't go anywhere else from the time they reach here. And the reason why they come in here is because they're trying to stick around who they know. You understand? When you're moving somewhere, it's actually very, kind of scary to migrate across the world and settle in an area where you don't have anybody. So, Caribbean people tend to, if you have friends or family, it doesn't even have to be like a large amount. As long as you have one or two persons or three persons that you know from back home or is a relative or what have you, you go there and you start to learn life. And so that's how it is here in New York. That's the reason why New York has so many Caribbean people from so many different Caribbean countries. And so a lot of us first generation American born Caribbean people are from places like New York, right? So New York is the only state that I know. My parents never picked up and said, well, let's try this state or let's try that state. Since, New York, if New York is not working out or whatever the case is, you really could go try other states. But there is just this anxiety and this fear of going somewhere else where your people or your community is not there, to provide whatever support or whatever security blanket you feel that you need. All right. I knew from since I was a little girl that I was not happy living in New York. I would have explained in a previous video that, I was born in the States and as a very small child, taken back to Grenada as a little baby. I wasn't even walking yet, right? Because, like I said, my mother, her plan at the time, she wasn't trying to really like stay in the United States. It was just give birth here, go back home with these kids. The healthcare system in the Caribbean and in third world countries is not the best. And out of fear of like, especially for pregnant women, you're carrying twins. It's risky, and if you have a better opportunity to make sure that you have a better labor and delivery, it is best to give birth to your kids somewhere like United States, England, Canada, those places, you understand. So yeah, so like I was saying, New York is where we know, and I never liked it in New York. Also growing up, because again with my mom's plan of how she wanted to do things, we also grew up with a mindset of, after a certain time we'll be returning back home. That is just how my mom always was. As most immigrants, when you first come to America, you come in for opportunity that you don't really have back home, financial wise. You understand? And I think every immigrant's dream is always to just, get that bag and return back home, because there's no place sweeter than home. Home is what you're accustomed to, and everybody realizes for themselves once they reach in America or New York specifically, you realize that it's not a bed of roses. Just like the people who were already there told you when you were back home, saying to yourself, man, I need to leave from here. I need to go abroad. I need to go experience abroad. I need to go to New York. And especially because in a first world country like America, who has access to all of these things, access to material things and access to resources that they purposely deprive the third world countries of having. So you're longing to get access to that, whether it be access to better health care, whether it be access to better education opportunities, or whether it be access to whatever luxuries that you deem as luxury or whatever. You're just looking out there and longing to get out there. Not everybody has the desire to leave home, but some people have the desire to leave home. And when you reach here, and you realize that there is a system of slavery that traps you into a cycle of working to achieve, is like, this is your goal, and in order to get to it you have to make this amount of money, or put things in line to get there. But the system has you in a rat race. And I'm going to specifically speak for New York because I know New York. I don't know any other states, right? But in Caribbeans, we refer to New York as America. It's like New York is the whole of America, right? So you realize that you're now in a rat race, trapped into, trying to get there, and every time you get here and you think that you're about to get to that goal, something happened to bring you right back down. That's how the system is actually designed, but you don't know that. So in your mind, mental health now start to come into play because you start to blame yourself. You're like, what is wrong with me? What is it I'm not doing? I'm getting up every day, I'm going to work, I'm clocking in, and then I'm getting my money and I'm making sure I pay my bills. I'm not bad spending. I'm not and you start to blame yourself and developing a dislike or a hatred for yourself, because you're like, why I can't get to where I want to go? Why I can't do this? I just want to get this bag so that I could go back home. Especially when you come up here, sometimes you're one of the only persons in your family that got the opportunity to come, however it is you got to come. Whether it be you met somebody, they married to you, you was able to get the opportunity, or you're going to the army. There's limited ways on how you could really obtain that visa or obtain that green card. But sometimes you're the only person in your family to make it out, and your family back home is kind of depending on you to be that person to come back and get the rest of us. You know what I mean? Not saying that home is such a bad place that you need to be rescued from, because again, home is paradise, but it's just trying to obtain certain opportunities. And you want that for your family. You're the one person out there. And I'm going to speak as though I'm in my mom's shoes, because out of all my mom's siblings, she was that one. She was that one that she got out there. And my mother, I remember when I was small, my mother dreamed of reuniting with her family and wanting to, bring them up here and everything like that. And that is literally all she was trying to work towards. Even though, yes, you're trying to work towards a life for yourself, when you have a family, your mother is home, your father is home, your brothers and sisters are home. You're looking out for them. Those times we didn't used to have cell phones and means of communication the way we communicate now. Now you could just pick up WhatsApp and just video your family and be able to see them every single day, every second of the day. Back then it was not like that. You weren't seeing your family's face unless they took a picture and put it in an envelope and mail it for you. You understand? That is the only way you were seeing them. Or if you had the means to pay for the flight to go home and see your family. So we had no communication that was like, just so easy and right there as it is today. My mom used to write letters to her sisters and her brothers and her mom and her dad, longing to see them. And sometimes, if they would need something, if she was able to buy it or maybe try to ship it for them, again, it was not as easy back then to do that as it is now. But just imagine being that immigrant. And I say an imagine because not everybody watching this video is going to be able to connect with that. Not everybody is an immigrant, or not everybody come from those immigrant families or from the Caribbean, right? But just imagine being that person trying to make it back home. Your heart is home. This is not your home, but you just came here to get a certain opportunity to be able to make it back home. But when you get here and you realize the system that you're trapped into, a state of depression starts to take place because you're wondering, what is the problem? Why can't you achieve that goal to be able to get back home and get back home to your family? And because you're deprived of certain resources also over here as a Black person, which sometimes we don't realize that, it's not your fault. The system is designed to trap you into that rat race so that you would never get that bag, so that you will not be able to go back down there and do what? Build back or level up that third world country that they're trying to keep suppressed. So that is the reason why you cannot help your family. You understand? They don't want you to be able to help your family. And because a lot of immigrants don't realize this, they blame themselves, and then sometimes their family member back home also start to blame them. Oh, you give up on us. Oh, you hate us. Oh, you're up there living your nice life, and you forget all about us, and we down here, we need the better health care. We need the this and we need the that, and you up there living it and you forget, and they don't even know that you up here catching your ass. You up here catching your ass. So then when the disrespect and from them and the hatred start to fall on you, now your family falls apart. You stop communicating with them because they're stressing you out more than you're already being stressed up here as a Black person in America. And that is how the system keep you separated from your family, break you up, is a design. You understand? So you stay up here and work until you never go back home to be able to build back up home. And those who down there stay where they there unless they're able to come up here. But guess what? As they come up here, they're falling right into that trap that you was in. That is how it works. A lot of people back home, they don't understand that. And a lot of people up here too, not realizing that. It's not your fault. Don't blame yourself. Don't hate yourself. It's not your fault. You did everything that you thought you had to do. It's not your fault, right? Just keep your head up. Keep trying, keep surviving. Do what you can. And don't hate yourself over the things that is out of your control. All right? So now as a little girl, being 4 and 5 years old, knowing to myself that I'm from an immigrant family, first generation born, my mom is constantly talking to us of, we are going to do this and are going to do that, and then we're going to get to be able to go back home. So that is why I grew up a different life than other people. You see, some people, they give up on home. They just decide, you know what, we're not going back there. They make their kids up here. They Americanize their kids, and sometimes they don't even return back home with their kids at all. There are people who are from, their parents are from countries that they've never been to, they've never visited. Their parents never brought them back home. You understand? But my immigrant family is a different story, as my mother was always, trying her best to make sure she, do this and do that so she could be able to help her family, because she was the only one, right? So, and me and my sister, I should say, when it comes to my mom, out of my grandparents' grandchildren, we are the only ones that were in America, and the rest of my cousins and them is, back home. So at this little age, every year my mom is trying to work towards, I'm going to save up a little bit money, and then we're going to catch a flight and we're going to go back home. But when you're hit with bills, and like I said, the way the system is designed against you, when you, especially too with your job, the slavery now with the job, is that they don't want to give you vacation until you've worked a certain time to be able to take that vacation. And when they give you the vacation, sometimes it's only 1 week. You understand? So then you tell yourself, does it make sense after I work minimum wage job to save this amount of money to be able to pay for a flight to only go home for 1 week? I'm losing way more money than if I just, you know what, save this money, and school time coming again. My kids gonna need school uniform, they're gonna need school shoes, they're gonna need books and supplies and stuff. So you know what? I'm gonna have to be a responsible parent and decide we're not going home this summer. We're not going home when I get that 1 week vacation. And I would save the money to, sacrifice for my kids and just take the week to rest before I go back to work. Because all they're giving you out of 365 days a year is 1 week. All right. Year after year, it was like kind of up in the air. Are we going home? Are we not going home? You have your goals. New York was a place that, because again, as I had already experienced Grenada, and New York is like, cold, Grenada is warm. You start to compare and say, you know what, I like home better than New York. And so for those reasons, amongst other reasons where I will talk about later on in the video, is why I never liked New York and I prefer home. Something major that really, really, really made me start to become afraid while living in New York was two things: 9/11 and racism. When 9/11 happened, I had to be around 5 years old. Some people might not remember being that young or have a memory of being that young. Not everybody's brain develops the same to have a strong memory, but I could remember being 5 years old, clear as day, like it happened yesterday. The day before 9/11, I was in kindergarten. Okay. Like I said, at this time, I would have already, I started school at a young age and stuff like that. So I was very brisk, very educated, very well spoken 5-year-old child. I understood a lot. I was in kindergarten, and the day before 9/11, which was September 10th, 2001, we had a bomb threat at our school. The only thing I cannot remember is if the person was just around the school premises or if they had actually gone up to the roof of the school. I don't remember, because I do remember when I was in the 4th grade, we did have another bomb scare again on top of the school. But I think this person was actually on top of the roof of the school. So I don't want to mix up those two memories and say that when into the one that happened in 2001 that the person was at the roof, because I do not remember that detail. Right? But just know they were, in close proximity to the school or on school grounds. And because of that, bomb scare, we used to do drills all the time. So, of course, we operated as though it was like a fire drill. And they evacuated us from the school. And the safe space used to be like we would leave that school and go across to like another school auditorium or basketball gym or what have you. So that is what we did. And it was a very scary experience because it had never happened before. And it disrupted our school day. We were in the classroom, just in our zone, learning and everything like that. And all of a sudden, bell ring, announcement, hurry up and file the kids out of the school and get them to safety. And I was only 5 years old. It was really weird. We had to sit down in the basketball gym and just like, waiting around for like, okay, what happens next? And, me just thinking to myself, are we going to come out of this alive? Is somebody coming to do something to us kids? Do my mom and my dad know that we left the school? When school is over, will they know where to come and pick me up? Will I ever see them again? A little 5-year-old child is just having these little thoughts in your mind, and you're anxious and stuff like what's going to happen. Eventually, we did get back to our parents and get back home. And so, when I came home and me and my sister, we explaining the situation to our mom and we say, Mommy, we don't feel safe going to school tomorrow. Can we stay home from school tomorrow? And my mom is like, stay home from school? Me, I had to go to work because bills had to pay. We had to keep this roof over our head. I have my rent to pay, you understand? So I don't know if I will keep Ali home from school. So, we start to like ask her, give her options. Again, we were 5 years old, but very brisk, very smart. We're like, well, mommy, call such and such and see if they could come and babysit us if you have to go to work. Can you drop us by, our godmother's house? Or can you, call and find out who could come and watch us? Because I'm telling you straight up, mommy, I don't want to go to school tomorrow. I didn't feel safe at school today. And so my mother was like, I don't know about that. Calling people on short notice and grown people, they have to go to work too. So I know I'll going to school tomorrow. So we go to bed. Next morning, we get up. My mom, she was one of those persons always on top of everything. She would have our school uniform, school skirt, everything pressed and ready, hang up, waiting for us in the morning. So when you get up, you just have to, freshen up yourself, whatever, put on your clothes, they already iron everything. So me and my sister get up and we gone and we sit down in the living room, in the dining room, sorry, to eat our breakfast. And we did not put our school uniform on. We was like, I don't know why mommy think we going to school, but we not going to school today. So my mother was fussing with us and she's like, go and put on your school clothes. And we're like, I don't want to go, mommy, I don't want to go. And she's like, hurry up and get ready. School starting such and such a time. I have to get you guys to the bus stop for the bus to come and pick you up to take you to school. Mind you, school this was just like the first or second week of school. School just opened back from summer because this happened September 11th. And so I think it was only about the second week of school. So every morning she would turn on the TV in the living room and put on the news. As the woman turned on the TV, you just see, she put on the news and you see smoke and all kind of thing and a plane flying across the sky. And it's like, my mother was like, but what going on there? And so she picked up the phone. She started to make phone calls and stuff. Me and my sister, we still not really understanding what's happening. And then my father called and he said to her, do not leave the house and don't send my children to school for me, please. That was music to me and Camilla's ears. We were like, yes, we don't have to go to school, but not really realizing why we don't have to go to school. We were just like, yes, we get up, we start to jump on the couch. We don't have to go to school, yes. And then, we're watching and we're seeing like a little bit of chaos and stuff. To me, I'm not sure if what we're watching is a movie or if that's something that's happening in real life. I don't know. I'm just looking at the TV and I'm like, wow, this explosion kind of looks like, something you would see in the movie theater in one of those, superhero type movies. What the hell is going on here? You understand? So shortly after that, I just remember my father ended up coming over and he was like, I can't even get to work. The police, they block up the place. They won't even let you drive, to where he was headed and stuff like that. So, he was calling his brothers and sisters and stuff like that because a few of them work in Manhattan and especially around the same area and that the incident was taking place. And it actually started to hit me and my sister that, oh, this is a chaotic day. Like, oh, this is actually something really happening. And so we just said to ourselves, you see, that's why we didn't have to go to school, because people come in and they come in and mash up the place, and maybe they was gonna go and do it to the school too, because why would the day before we had this, this scare? So we just felt like it was connected. Now to this day, I would never know if it was actually connected. But to be a child and growing up and realizing that schools can be targets of these types of threats is just crazy. And it makes you feel like you're not safe at school. You're like, at least I don't think my house is a target, right? Because it seemed as though it was more so like, government buildings or more so like institutions. But your little private home, they're not coming for you. They're coming for whoever they're coming for. So you're safer at home. You understand? So me and my sister said to mommy, daddy, we're not going to school for the rest of the week. We're probably not going to school for the rest of the month. You understand? My mom was like, I don't know what's going on here, but rent had to pay. We don't even know what's gonna take place next, but my mom is just like, listen, I got kids to take care of, rent had to pay. So they better stop this crap what they're doing here in America so we could live our life in peace and survive, because I'm telling you, rent had to pay. That was the first scare for me. And so, eventually as I start to go back to school, I'm going back to school nervous. I'm going back to school with anxiety. I don't know what today is gonna hold. I'm like, are they coming back? What's going on? And again, 5 years old, I don't really pay attention to politics and what's going on with the government and stuff. I just know that I don't feel safe at school. And I said to myself, if this is something to do with whatever country it is that, hate America or they don't like America or whatever it is, well, then let me get out of here. Not, oh, let's get out of New York and move to another state, because things was happening in other states too. I think Pennsylvania, Washington, D.C., whatever the case is. So I'm like, we had to get out the whole country. We had to go back home. That was my mindset. And I remember my mom also, she would have dreams, and she would wake up and always talk about her dream about, oh, she saw boulders falling from the sky, or oh, she saw this or she saw that's going to take place. And I said, well, and my mother, she kind of, how she grew me and my sister up, very deep into our Bible and praying and, asking God for protection and stuff like that. And, she used to say like these dreams are prophecies. It's almost like she felt like she was a prophet. So I was like, well, mommy's seeing into the future like that. So Raven, so if she's seeing it and Raven does see things, mommy's a psychic. So this is what is going to happen. So if that is the case and mommy's saying that she's seeing the sky opening up and bullets falling and stuff like that, we have to have an escape plan to get back to Grenada. That is what we have to do. So that was my mindset at that little age. And I said to myself, I said, mommy, save your money, do what you have to do, because, we have to go back home and stuff like that. We can't stay here if they're coming to get America. We can't stay here. You understand? So that was one of the reasons that I kept that with me, that I said, okay, you know what? My dad is like, yo, focus on school. You're a kid. Don't worry about these things. We are your parents. We're going to figure out where we're going to take you guys in life. You just study your exam to pass your exam, and that is it. You understand? So I said, okay. Growing up in school, I also, just experiencing racism from the other race of people that was around us. Even though you're a small child, being black doesn't, being a child does not really exclude you from racism when there are adults in your school who are not black and deciding to, like, be mean to you or retaliate against you or make fun of you or have the class laughing at you and stuff like that. So those were some things that I didn't like. And then also, I started to witness police brutality right in my own backyard. In my house where I grew up, I had 3 older cousins who were all boys, all high school aged. And around this time, in the early 2000s, the police in New York, I don't know if they were on a mission to harass all black boys in the neighborhood, where, especially when you reach a certain age, they prey on teenage boys and young adult men. The police prey on them. And even though I was only about, and now at this age, 7 and 8 years old, I didn't really understand what they were doing. I knew that the police were people who, if you did something wrong, you go to jail. And at that age, wrongdoing meant thieving or murdering somebody or something like that. Those were seen as crimes: thieving, kidnapping, and murder. Right? So if you're in jail, we call you the bad guys. That's what, as kids, we refer to those people as the bad guys. Criminals are the bad guys, right? And so we assume that you're in jail because you did something wrong. So that means you deserve to be in there. But I didn't realize that there's a lot of people, going to jail, and they just go into jail just because they're black. They don't really even self do much of anything. So one day, this particular story, I remember my cousin had a bike and he was, coming down the street. And I love to hear the sound of motorbikes. I was very excited. And when I hear it, I won't say his name, but when I hear the motorbike, especially because he was one of my favorite cousins, because as a little girl, your cousin, like, you look up to them like big brothers. They come, they give you snacks and candy, they come lift you up and spin you in the air and all kind of stuff like that. And you like that, right? So when I hear the motorbike coming, I know my cousin coming, and I run to the window, excited to see him, and I like to see him on the bike. I like the song of the bike. I like to see him on the bike. And when he going and make his runs around the block, I'm waiting for him to circle back around the block again and then pop the bike up like this and do some tricks and thing. Watch. When I hear the bike, I could be in my bedroom, and my bedroom used to be in the back of the house, and the living room there in the front of the house. But I could hear the bike coming. And when I hear the bike coming, I run into the window because I know that such and such is coming home. I'm excited. I hear the bike. And so I hear the bike, and I reach to the front, and I see he just come off the bike real quick, and he pelt it and he run to the backyard. And then I hear sirens and the police, and I realized they was chasing him. So I'm like, what's going on? Like, why they chasing him? And they just entered right into the backyard as though they live here. And they went to the backyard and they start to beat him. So when I was in the window and I watch in the front, and I see the police come through the backyard. And so I start to walk to my bedroom. The back windows was facing the backyard. So I know my cousin went in the backyard. So I run to my bedroom now to look out the back window to see what the hell the police going to run behind my cousin for, because my cousin is not a bad guy. I never know him to thief or steal or murder anybody. So, why the police running behind him? And when I open the curtain and I look, and I'm only 7 or 8 years old, to my surprise, they're beating him up, they're beating him, and I'm like, I start to bawl. I'm like, what are they doing? What are you doing? So I open the window and I start screaming, get off of my cousin, get off my cousin. What are you doing? You're going to kill him. Like, what are you doing? And they had the stick that they have, and they're beating him up. And they take out, what is this thing they had? Pepper spray. And they spray up in his eyes, and they mace his face, and they throw him on the ground, and they cuff him and thing. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, mind you, like my whole world was falling apart, because like, to him, it wasn't even just my cousin. He was like my big brother, and it traumatized me seeing them do that. Like, how do, and I'm like, what did he do? And then, his brother now come from downstairs, my next cousin, run into the back, basically, to go and save him. Like, get off my brother, what are you doing? And they start to beat him too. And then they left with them. And so I'm running as they're carrying them away and trying to put them into the vehicle. Again, I'm only 7 years old. I'm running to the front. I'm about to run outside, and I'm like, what are you doing? Come back here with my cousins. What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, what did they do? What are you doing? And they took them and they left, and a ball for like probably the rest of the evening, because I was like, am I ever gonna see them again? I've never seen anybody get arrested before, like right in front of my eyes. I mean, I'm seeing it on TV, but not like this. And so I was like, what did they do? And so I'm asking my mom, I'm like, what did they do? And my mom is like, I don't know. But eventually, as this was the first incident, and in the weeks and months to come, the police will come back and do it again and again and again. And so I realized they didn't do anything wrong. The police are bullying them. The police are attacking them. Why does the police keep on coming to this house and doing that to them? Why? You know? And so I start to become scared as, the years go by, and every February they teach us about Black history in school, and we start to learn about slavery, and we start to learn about the civil rights movement, and we start to learn about how Black people is treated in America for years and years. And, as technology start to develop, they're changing the teaching style. So, of course, we started off just reading in textbooks, and then afterwards they start to get projector, and they getting images from the past, and they putting it on the projector, and they showing us images of Black people who were lynched and Black people who were, police brutality and thing. And so now they're putting a picture to the words in the textbook, and I start to connect it to what's happening at my house. They would show us like little motion film, little slave movies of these, big white men of authority. They just go to the Black boy's house and they pull him out of his bed and they take him and they beat him and they lynch him. And I was like, even though that happened in 19 such and such, we are in 2005 and they're still doing it. But when they take them to the police station, because I don't know what the police station looks like, I've never been inside of the police station, what are they doing to them there? Because my cousins always come back home. They're not lynching them, but they keep coming for them. And me as a little Black girl, I realized, to myself, I said, I know the police see me in the window screaming. I know they see me crying. But they don't come in the house and grab me out next. And maybe it's because I'm a girl, because I'm thinking to myself, I guess they just do this to the Black boys or the Black men. I don't know. So there were times when it became such a common thing that, again, that first incident I saw when I was 7, by the time I was like, 12, 11 and 12, I became used to it and I knew what they were coming to do. So as soon as I hear the siren or I see the cop car pull up in front of my house, sometimes I would close the window, but I would just keep the curtain a little bit thing and peep. And then I would just cuss and I say, them fucking police, and then when they really come. And I used to be glad when my cousins and they're not home. Because I say, yeah, all the fuckers, I'll come for them, but they're not there. They're not there. That is how I was looking at it. But I hide because I was like, I don't know if they would ever come for me or what, because again, I don't know what is the reason they're going after them. And I felt so unsafe at home, and there were times when sometimes we get little projects in school to like, draw what you saw in your dream last night, something like that. And I would just sit down, or sometimes they give us a little project to like, write an essay about what you want to do this summer or whatever the case is. And I would just write and write and write about how I long to go back to Grenada and get away from this this nightmare that I was living. I said, if I was in Grenada, I wouldn't be exposed to this. I wouldn't be seeing this. This damn them doesn't happen in Grenada. I start to just wish that, as I finish school, I'm going to get a job, get some money, and, just go back home. There were even times too when me and my sister, when we would like, quote unquote, misbehave according to my mom used to beat us and say, watch, I just shipping all the back home, I can't bother with you guys again. I'll making me see trouble. And I was like, do it. I want to get out of here anyways. I want to get out of here anyway. Ship me back home so I don't have to see all this nonsense what's going on up here. On top of that, I start to become more aware of the fact that there's gang activity in Brooklyn. Again, living inside of my house, The only thing I was exposed to was whatever was happening inside my house. I was never allowed to, like, go outside and hang out with friends and stuff like that. But paying attention to the news, or sometimes hearing gunshots ring off in the neighborhood and stuff like that, I start to become more aware that the environment is not so safe, and maybe that's why it's better that we don't really go outside like that. We just go outside, go to school, and come home. But trust me, with the police constantly coming to my house and doing what they're doing, I'm like, are they ever going to come and attack me the way that they attacking my cousin? Are they ever going to come to get me? I remember one year what the school used to do around Christmas time. They used to have us write a Christmas list to Santa. They're like, oh, write your list to Santa, what you want or whatever. I write it down. I'm thinking they just want us to exercise our imagination, because I don't know already that Santa Claus is not real and whatever. I had no idea that the school actually had a program where they do a toy drive and they actually get the gifts for you that you wrote on your list or whatever. I thought we just write in this, hand it into the teacher as a schoolwork or something to get. Just when the teacher tells you to do something, no matter if he sounds stupid, just do it because you're getting graded. So I wrote down what I want, whatever, Santa wish list, whatever. Give it to them. Had no idea that they were in communication with maybe the Department of Education was in communication with, Department of Law Enforcement to help give back to the community. 2 police officers walk up to my house one evening. I used to sit down in the window drawing cars. I like cars. And I would sit down, drawing vehicles or whatever. And as I see 2 police officers open the gate, I come out the window immediately, because I thought to myself, they come from my cousins and them again. They ring the doorbell, and I just walked away from the living room. Especially as my parents always taught me, don't answer the door for that. Don't answer the door to strangers. Although police like to come and say like, "Oh, police, open up!" And if you don't open up, it's like you're committing some type of crime just because you're not opening the door for them. But I walked away. My mom went to the door. She also thought that they were coming for the black men that live in my house. And I was hiding behind the door because I came back to the living room when my mom opened the door, because as a child I felt like I'm supposed to be my mom's protector. I'm her guardian angel. I'm my mother's warrior. And I don't let my mom just go blindly into things without me being there to watch over and supervise what's going on. So my mother went to open the door to the police, and I went and hide behind the door to have her back. And I heard them say, we're looking for Camille John. Does Camille John live at this residence? If you see me take flight, I run under my bed, because I said, oh my God, today is the day. Mind you, like, again, at school, we're learning things about like what they do to people like Emmett Till and those kinds of cases. So I said, oh my God, they come for me. Oh my God. Like, and I'm seeing the images of in my head, the KKK that has burned black people. And I'm like, I'm hyperventilating, because I was like, today's the day I'm going to die, because I don't think that I could withstand the beating that I see them do. So I run under the bed, and I'm like, I praying, like I start to pray like, no, they can't get me. They can't get me. They can't get me. Anyways, they left. When my mom came into the room, she goes, Camille, where did you go? And I'm holding my breath, and I'm like, don't talk, don't make a sound, because you're hiding. You don't want them to hear you breathing. And she says to me, if you're in the closet or under the bed or whatever, you could come out. The police are gone. They came to bring you a gift. I said, Come out from under the bed. She said, Christmas gift. Then police come to drop off Christmas gift. The school or whatever. It's still not clicking for me, because I said, no, this had to be a prank. I'm looking at the box like, don't open the box. Don't open that box. We don't know what they have in there for us. Open that box. She put it under the tree. The next morning, police officers pull up to the house again. But this time, it was a white officer with two black officers. So seeing black people dressed up in the uniform, I felt a little bit more like, okay, maybe we could trust them because they wouldn't come here to do that to their own people, would they? They come. This time they ask, oh, we here for Camille, John. So my mother was like, okay. And one of them had this Santa hat on top of their heads, and they came in a long, these guys came with the long vehicle, the van. So when I was looking out the window, I could see that they had boxes packed up in the cop van. So I said, oh, they go in and drop Christmas presents to children houses. Okay. So maybe we could trust what's inside the box. Anyways, put it under the tree. I'm not too sure if I should trust to open that, but put it under the tree. Say Merry Christmas, however. So Christmas morning, the box that the police came with for me, I just take it and I poke a hole and I peep. I know what all they putting in them boxes for black people children, yeah? Poke a hole and I peep. I see the eye of a doll. So that is when I fully rip it open and I see that a doll was inside the box. I opened the box, I checked the doll, I watched it, and I said, okay, it's safe. You understand? That concludes this episode and this part of the story as to my reasoning for not liking living in New York and feeling like I'm not safe in New York and wanting to go back home. And I just grew up with a mindset that when all this is said and done, Greta, don't have these kinds of stress for me to have to deal with. So I'm going home. You understand? All right? Thank you guys so much for watching this episode, and I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.